Good afternoon and good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our second OAMPO all-employee webcast. Very happy to be back with you here today. I was also pleased to get some good feedback on our first OAMPO webcast. So I'm glad that you are all finding this to be a better vehicle for us to get information out to you on a monthly basis. I'm not going to do a whole lot of talking today. I have three very capable members of my team here. But I did just want to tee up a couple of things, one that they will be talking about, and then one other item before we delve into the agenda. So Jen Larson and Brian Murray on my team are here today. They work in our asset and counterparty oversight division. And they're going to be talking about some specific improvements that we're making to our troubled asset oversight. As many of you know, we haven't been able to be doing MORs since 2011. And that really has had a fairly detrimental impact on our ability to provide oversight to our assisted-only portfolio. And we're beginning to see a bit of sideways movement in the health of that particular component of our portfolio. So we put together what we're calling a Troubled Asset Oversight Improvement Plan that contains a number of both operational and policy improvements to give you better tools to both enforce against assets that have become non-compliant with their business agreements with the department, and also a set of tools for you to use to get projects that are sort of sliding into the potentially troubled or troubled category back on right footing. So Jen and Brian are going to go over some specific components of that plan. Before I turn it over to them, I did just want to mention some of the great work that our 8BB Design Council has been doing. This Design Council has been led by Margaret Potheg on my team, and it is comprised of a variety of both headquarters and field staff. And they have just been working incredibly hard to make the 8BB notice that we issued recently more implementable when it is out in the field. I say all the time that the policy that we're putting out from OAMPO these days is not your grandmother's policy. It's becoming increasingly complex, increasingly difficult to implement for you all in the field. And this was really the genesis for us establishing the 8BB Design Council, led by Margaret Potheg. And Margaret this morning actually handed to me the fruits of this Design Council's labor. They have already published 2 frequently asked questions that contains answers to 27 of your most frequently asked questions from out in the field. We're currently working on the 3rd set of FAQs, and we'll be getting those out to you soon. But the most exciting thing that she presented to me this morning, and which I know that you're going to absolutely love, and that we'll be making available to you in the very near future, is a standard work punch list containing all of the information that you have to submit with your 8BB proposal to headquarters. It also contains an application checklist. It contains an 8BB eligibility checklist, a technical review and determinations checklist, and a checklist for all of the documentation that you actually have to submit to HUD headquarters. So this is giving you a very prescriptive set of tools, a standard operating procedure that you can follow when you are analyzing these applications, and hopefully will make your review and analysis of those applications easier. The standard work also includes the transmittal memos that you need to submit to both FHEO and PD&R to get their reviews on the 8BB applications. And it also contains a standardized transmittal memo with your recommendation to send to headquarters. So hopefully these will provide you with some very good tools to make your review of these applications a little easier, to get a lot of the sort of details out of the way, and let you really focus your energies on doing a holistic deep dive analysis on the merits of the transaction. So I'm just incredibly, incredibly proud of the work that this design council has done. Incredibly proud of my team member, Margaret Pothag. And I just wanted to take a couple of minutes to run through, to publicly thank and express my appreciation for the members of the design council out there in the field. So in no particular order, but I'll start with Boston because that's where I hail from. Teresa Klein in the Boston office, Mary Ellen McFarlane in Denver, Terry Munson in Minneapolis, Deborah Varley in Jacksonville, Peter Potsma, also from Minneapolis, Joey Mattingly from Denver, Christy Newhouse from Fort Worth, Julie Euclid from San Francisco, Gwen Keller, also from San Francisco, Monica Richardson from the Southwest region, Fort Worth, and then Daisy Parker from Kansas City, and then from my team here in HUD headquarters, James Wyatt, Jen Larson, Stan Houle, Cindy Bridges, and Valencia Hare from OAMPO FAM. So just wanted to take a couple of minutes to publicly recognize the great work of these folks. I've heard from Margaret that participation in these design councils is an incredibly energizing experience. It's a wonderful opportunity for you to connect with your colleagues from throughout the country. It's a wonderful opportunity for you to be involved in making policy more implementable when it gets into the field. And it also is delivering on one of the main tenets of the multifamily transformation, and that really is to have the way that we do business and the way that we operate be very well informed from ideas that are coming up from the field. So thank you all in the presence of all of your colleagues for the great work that you've done. And for those of you who did not participate on this council, if you get a chance to run into any of your colleagues that I just listed out in the field, please extend your congratulations and thanks to them. I surely do appreciate it. So we'll get moving along on the agenda. As I mentioned, Jen Larson and Brian Murray are going to get into a little bit more detail on the operational and policy enhancements that we've put into place and that are contained in our Troubled Asset Oversight Improvement Plan. Included in the minutes to this webcast, we will include the overall Troubled Asset Oversight Improvement Plan, which contains operational and policy improvements that Jen and Brian won't touch upon today, but we'll touch upon in subsequent webcasts. But we do want to make the entire plan available to you so that you have it, so that you understand what's coming down, and so that you understand what tools you'll shortly have at your disposal to help you do a better job in managing our portfolio. Before I do go there, though, I just wanted to provide a little bit of context with respect to the overall health of our assisted portfolio. Oftentimes I feel like multifamily gets a bad rap because you'll have an asset that is particularly bad, but represents a very minuscule portion of our portfolio, and it gets in the news media, and your local congressmen get all excited about it, and HUD headquarters turns the Klieg light onto you in the field to demand all sorts of questions about how did you let it get this way, et cetera, et cetera. So I just wanted to provide some context for how really small a portion of the portfolio this cohort is, and to sort of express to you how grateful I am for all of the good work that you're doing on the balance of the portfolio to really keep it in the great shape, the great overall shape that it is. So of the assisted projects, 23,000 plus or minus of them, only 1,083 are designated troubled in that 1 to 5 troubled designation. An overwhelming majority of those 1,083 projects that are designated troubled are at the 5 rating, which, as you all know, is the least troubled within the troubled category. And only 4% of those 1,083 are designated as a 1, which is the most troubled of the troubled cohort. So I just wanted to provide that context to you. Even though we are very hyper-focused on implementing this troubled asset oversight improvement plan, because we really feel that there are systemic issues that we need to address with respect to policy and operational improvements that we can make. I don't want you to feel that it is a reflection of the job that you're doing on balance for the entire portfolio that you're charged with managing. So with that, I will turn it over to Jen Larson to go through a few of the specific components of the plan.
Thank you. What I'm going to talk about today is some changes that are coming up probably in May or June to the REAC. Both the scheduling, the scoring methodology, and also looking at poor performers. And you'll be seeing more guidance about this coming out in the next few months, but we wanted to introduce you to some of these concepts now and provide the opportunity for questions and feedback as needed. So also wanted to just give a shout out to the people in the field that have helped me with the design council looking at this REAC procedure, and that's Yvonne Kaufman and Mark Sulo in Jacksonville, and then also Brant Whitty here in headquarters has been really helpful. So we've had this kind of task force that's been meeting since January to go over some of these changes and plan out what's going to happen. We're at the implementation phase now. And as you see more guidance come out, I wanted you to be aware of what's going on. So the first topic I'm going to talk about is REAC scheduling, and we've had problems in the past, particularly on the non-insured side of things, with inspections that have been delayed or just overdue for a year or more, and this is particularly problematic when the score is under 60 and we really need to get an inspection done to see if the improvements have been made at that property. So this is partly due to the reverse auction process, which is not the easiest to navigate. And we did an extra reverse auction in February to get caught up on all projects that were out of date. And I really appreciate all the effort from people in the field to track down those projects and make sure that they were okay to go inspect. It was really helpful. We've got inspections starting now for those projects. So we should be all caught up and have a good plan for staying caught up going forward. We're still encountering some problems with clearly determining which projects should not be inspected for various reasons, whether they're under rehab or there's been a natural disaster or some kind of event at the property that means the inspection should be canceled. And when inspections are canceled at the last minute, it costs money and also time. And then we also have a property that's not inspected, which is 3 bad things. So we're trying to avoid those. We're doing 2 main improvements to the process. First, in order to give you more awareness of when the inspection is due, on the non-insured projects, we're going to begin posting the ideal future date for the inspection on the risk rating SharePoint site. And that's the ideal future date is, you remember, it's 2 years if it's above 80 and 1 year if it's below 80. And that date is going to be on the risk rating SharePoint site. When the date comes up within the next 3 months, you're going to be asked to verify whether or not that property is ready for inspection. And that'll be on the risk rating SharePoint site. Your comment will show up as out of date until that happens. You'll need to contact the owner, enter yes or no. If it's no, you're going to use the risk rating comment field there to explain why they are not going to be inspected. We're going to ask that you get contracts or invoices or some kind of verification from the owner that this rehab is actually going on. And you're going to be prompted again in 3 months to verify, are they ready for reinspection or not? And so we hope this will give you a lot more just awareness of when the inspection is due, when it's coming up, what your responsibilities are, and just make sure that the inspections get completed on time. This is going to replace the reverse auction list that Brant sends out. Brant had sent out an Excel list asking for feedback whenever a reverse auction was coming up. We're going to try to do this on a continual basis so that you're always checking to see which projects are coming up, and then you'll be able to answer and won't have that extra Excel sheet coming out. With regard to disasters and things, we definitely understand that often those aren't on a schedule, and there may be last minute things, cancellations, but we really hope that this is going to cut down on a lot of the cancellations for rehab that we really should know about. Second, I touched on this a little bit. We're going to ask for a consistent standard of what's an acceptable reason for a REAC inspection being delayed. And so if there's building-wide rehab going on, the owner's going to need to show a contract or an invoice, some reason why that is going on, and a specific end date for when the rehab's going to be completed. If it's small units, they're just rehabbing 1 or 2 units, they can submit an existing condition to REAC either before or after their inspection to say that those conditions should be discounted for that particular unit, and go ahead with the inspection anyway. So again, we'll be coming out with more guidance on all of this, so don't try to memorize it all right now, just kind of introducing the concepts. So this will be happening in May or June, when the changes to the SharePoint site will happen. And we'll have more guidance coming out then. With regard to REAC scoring methodology, we've also been asked to look at raising the failing score from 60 to 70. And after looking at this in some great detail and what exactly we would have to change to make the failing score 70, we've decided that there are a lot of moving pieces, and it makes more sense to kind of designate projects from 60 to 69 as eligible for increased scrutiny and enforcement, possible enforcement, but that 70 is not a workable failing score at this point. We are going to be raising the threshold for automatic deck referral. That right now that's at 30, and that's going to be moved to 45. And we're in conversation with the deck so that they have agreed to this. First of all, we're going to be sending them some more projects. And then also that for the 60 to 69, we're going to ask you to look at those projects, look at the conditions that exist there. If it's not decent, safe, and sanitary, we're going to empower you to send out an NOD, NOV for those projects, even if they're above what we consider a failing score. And of course, you can make elective referrals to the deck at any point. We're also going to ask for some additional follow-up on owner repair certifications. So when there is a below 60 or an NOD, NOV, and the owner has to document or certify that they've completed the repairs, we're going to ask them to send in some kind of photographs, or if it's feasible to do a site visit, we'll absolutely encourage that to be done, just to make sure that those certifications are actually the repairs that are actually taking place. We're also going to look at a review of R4R expenses and maintenance costs on the AFS, if that's applicable for those projects. And then we're going to revise the risk rating criteria to incorporate this kind of 60 to 70 danger zone, or getting close to failing that is kind of in there right now, but it's not totally clear. So we're going to be revising the risk rating criteria. And again, look for this coming out in May or June in conjunction with the SharePoint updates. The last REAC topic that we've been asked to look at is enhanced oversight of poor performers. And with that, we mean like projects that have failed 3 or 4 or more inspections in a row, are not certifying, are not taking any action to create decent, safe, and sanitary housing. First of all, I just wanted to thank everyone for your help with getting the Section 230 actions recorded into IRMs. We discussed this on the monthly calls in March, and everyone was really helpful with getting that in, and we were able to continue with making that report to Congress on Section 230. Also wanted to point out the Section 230 standard work checklist that's out there as a resource. So if you're not clear what to do or what Section 230 means or what step you should be out of the process, I encourage you to check out that Section 230 standard work checklist. We're going to be bringing up, for these repeated poor performers, we're going to be bringing this up on regional calls with the regional directors. We're having those quarterly with Nancy Ann and I. So those are going to be listed, and we're going to ask kind of what's going on. Are they being referred to the deck? Are you proceeding with HAP abatement? Are you What kind of action are you taking to try to get this owner into some form of decent, safe, sanitary housing, or to remove our assistance so we're not providing subsidy for units that are substandard. And their DEC is investigating expanding their capacity for CMPs, civil money penalties, and we want to remind you of that option, and that they're hoping to expand that and encourage you to make those referrals whenever it makes sense to do so. I think that's all the REAC items I was going to go over. The last one is that we've been talking about in order to identify some of these owners that are large owners that are causing problems. We've been asked to look at assigning assets by borrower, and there's a couple challenges to that. First of all, information. This owners certify on their 2530s separately what assets they own, but we have no system by which we can gather that information electronically and say, hey, this person owns these assets because of the single asset entity in IRMs. We're working on a long-term information solution with a new app system and a new that'll be able to track those things. But in the meantime, we've come up with a kind of a Band-Aid solution, which is looking at email domains. And so I've identified email domains of large owners that have this as their owner contact email. And using that, we've been able to determine that about 10% of the portfolio is owned by only 29 owners, which is actually kind of a large number. A lot of these 29 owners have portfolios that span regions and not only span offices, but span regions, so that it's sometimes difficult to track, if there's problems going on in Kansas City, that's not always communicated to the same owner in Jacksonville. If they're looking to buy a project in San Francisco, and they've been having problems with other properties, we absolutely do review, and there's procedures for that, but we want to make these connections a little bit clearer for these large owners. And so we also want to work within the new structure, transformation-wise, which is the account executives, senior account executives, and then the resolution teams, and recognize that there's some, for troubled projects, we still want a resolution specialist assigned to those projects, even if the large owner is as a whole is assigned to somebody else. So we have a draft plan to overcome some of these challenges, but I'm definitely going to be looking for field feedback on that to make sure you're all the experts on this new structure and see it working every day in your offices. And so I want to make sure that whatever we're planning is going to work with your teams and your structure. So we're going to be distributing draft guidance and looking for feedback very soon, and just wanted to make you aware of this coming up. I think that's all. I'm going to turn it over to Brian Murray, who's going to talk about HAP assignments.
Thank you, Jen. So I'll be speaking to a few updates we are actually considering rolling out as it pertains to the HAP assignment request and review process. So recently we've taken a look at how HAP assignments are actually being reviewed and processed in the regional centers and satellite offices. And our review found that most of you all are actually aligned in your review process for the HAP assignments, but we did find some inconsistencies and variances in several offices. So to that point, regardless of the type of review that you're currently performing, at a minimum, we would really like to see a rigorous, uniform project and borrower review being performed on these type of requests. We also ask that you perform a TPA-like review when receiving a HAP assignment request. And we're actually going to provide some upcoming guidance where we've actually outlined a more robust and comprehensive risk-based criteria for HAP assignment review. We are hoping that this review will actually aid you in better assessing a borrower's capacity and creditworthiness to actually absorb a new project into their portfolio. So to this point, be on the lookout for standard operating procedures, a notice, as well as a revised handbook chapter for reviewing HAP assignment requests. Again, we are still in the lab on a lot of these issues, and we very much welcome your feedback. Again, in the field, you are the experts out there. So if you have any suggestions, please send me an email, and that will actually conclude my update on HAP assignment request, and I will turn it over to Kate.
Well, good day to you all. I have a few additional policy updates for you today. Last week, on March 31st, we issued Notice 2016-5, which addresses tenant participation requirements from Part 245 of the regs. This was an update to guidance originally issued in 2014. The notice did not make any changes to actual tenant participation and organizing rights. Tenants continue to have the right to organize legitimate tenant groups, to distribute leaflets, survey tenants, and to receive notification and respond to a whole host of different changes that may occur in conditions on the property. The notice does make a change to one of the penalties that may be applied to an owner should they, or their agent, should they violate the tenant rights. Specifically, the policy now allows for civil monetary penalties to be assessed to any Section 8 owner that has renewed under MARA, including those that do not have FHA insurance. Under the prior notice, CMPs were an option, but only for insured properties. The notice also clarifies the requirements surrounding the conciliation step of the process for addressing reported violations of the Part 245 requirements. The notice seeks to make clear that conciliation needs only to be attempted where both the tenant and the owner or management agent are willing participants. In some cases, it may be appropriate to move directly to the investigation and when supported by sufficient evidence, to a notice of finding. In addressing these reported violations, asset managers are called upon to play a little bit of the arbitrator role and also the investigator. And we understand that that can be challenging. We want everyone to feel supported and empowered to be able to effectively address any reports of violations that may be presented to the field office. To that end, we're working to develop a new training around the requirements and the processes described in Notice 2016-5. We're hoping to get this together sometime this spring, so please keep an eye out for announcements on that. And I also wanted to note that we, as with in many areas of policy, are continuing to look for ways that we can improve the process, and are getting some feedback from our stakeholder organizations, and also we'll be looking to the field offices to provide input into the process and figure out if there are any additional steps and changes we can make in the future. But we're excited that we did get 2016-5 out. We think it's, it represents some notable improvements. I had a couple of other updates I wanted to touch upon. These are follow-ups from items I mentioned on last month's call. One is the notice providing implementing guidance for changes enacted to the LIPRA statute this past December. The notice is still making its way through clearance, but it will be out later this month. We were hoping to get it out early this month, but it's looking like it will probably be late March or late April. Please note that LIPRA use agreements will need to be modified to allow owners to access the increased distributions. If you have any time-sensitive situations in which owners are seeking to draw down additional distributions or obtain special access to residual receipts, and this is prior to the issuance of the notice, please vet those requests through Field Asset Management, and we'll address them on a case-by-case basis. Also in clearance is an implementing notice for the final streamlining rule. The notice is going to include some illustrations for streamlined income determinations, as well as guidance on how to treat missing Social Security numbers for small children when submitting those tenants into tracts. So given the nature of the changes in both the LIPRA and the streamlining rule notice, we do expect that they will be effective immediately upon publication. So please look for those also in the month of April. And that's all.
Thank you so much, Kate. And thank you, Jen and Brian. I am very happy to have with us here today my counterpart in the Office of RECAP, Tom Davis, the director of that office. Tom and I have been talking ever since he started here. How long ago?
June 15th, nine months-ish?
8:30 a.m.
Well, I remember because that's the date that the RAD notice came out, the revised RAD notice came out.
Perfect. So Tom is just, we're so happy to have him on the multifamily leadership team here. He has a whole host of private sector experience in the affordable housing development community. And he has brought great energy and wonderful collegial spirit to his office in RECAP, and has also sort of gone out of his way to bridge what I think has historically been a bit of a divide between the RECAP office in headquarters and the OAMPO office in headquarters. There's been a little bit of a rejiggering of functions. 236 prepayments went down to RECAP. Then some of them came back, and with 236 prepayments, sometimes there's a flex deferral, and it's sort of unclear who does that flex deferral, whether it has to bounce back to OAMPO, et cetera, et cetera. So Tom and I have really committed to putting a process in place so that we work much more seamlessly with one another, so that our roles are much better clarified in terms of who does what. And I think what Tom is going to talk about today more specifically is some improvements that we're thinking about making to RAD 2 conversions with respect to processing of rent sup and RAP extensions. This has been something where OAMPO has had a portion of the responsibility. Tom's team has had a portion of the responsibility. And we've done a lot of thinking about where that function should sit in its entirety. I don't think we're prepared today to talk about where that will be. But I just want you to know how committed we are here in HUD headquarters to making our relationship and the relationship of our staffs much more collaborative with clear roles and responsibilities defined. And we're really committed to making sure that that cascades down to all of you in the field, so that we're all clear on who is doing what. I'm very committed to supporting Tom in his very difficult charge to close 185,000 conversions under the RAD program. I know that'll not be an easy trick to pull off. So whatever we can do to support our colleagues in RECAP, I'm really committed to providing that, as are all of the members of my senior team here in headquarters. Now, with that, I'll turn it over to Tom.
Thanks very much, Nancy Ann, and thanks to all of you in the field for inviting me to be part of this call and this conversation today. As Nancy Ann mentioned, both offices definitely recognize that that the systems aren't working terribly smoothly right now, and that not working as smoothly as we'd like them to be. So today is a little more of a preview than this is the way it's going to work going forward. But I did want to mention a few things that we're working on together, and some of the things that the Office of RECAP is working on in connection with the relationship with all of you in the field in the OAMPO team and the OAMPO team here at headquarters. So we know that there are a lot of frustrations in how some of these intersections between our offices work, and it's frustrating to all of you. It's also frustrating to the headquarters teams. It's frustrating to the transaction managers, and to the extent that they are aware of to the extent some of these issues spill into sight of our stakeholders, it's frustrating to our stakeholders as well. So some of the kinds of things that we are thinking about and working to improve here within RECAP and in collaboration with OAMPO and some of you include things like in the post-mark-to-market universe, which transactions are, what questions come to RECAP, what questions are managed in the field. In the RAD 2 component in the component 2 section of the rental assistance demonstration, which is, as many of you know, the conversion of rent subs and RAP transactions, and the conversion of the mod rehab and the mod rehab SROs, some of which convert to project-based rental assistance, some of which convert to project-based vouchers, working with PIH. But we know that in that universe, there are also a lot of concerns, and most recently we've been really struggling with things like extensions of contracts and reapportionments and the transactional intersections between our offices. So those are a cluster of concerns, and there are many others. And then in the RAD component 1, which is the 185,000 units that will be converted over the next handful of years under the conversion of public housing properties to project-based vouchers or project-based rental assistance. There are, as an emerging new program that is trying to convert into a program that operates at a reasonable scale, there are a lot of issues there as well. And first and foremost is knowing what is coming to you in terms of transactions that you have never had any interaction with, but they are fast approaching being part of your portfolio. And some of the issues that derive from that, the assignment of the account executive, the relationship between the account executive and the transaction manager and the transaction process as a whole. Things like how 2530s are coordinated, setting the transaction up in tracks, the affirmative fair housing marketing plan. These are just a few of the issues, and then of course the closing documentation and the interaction with the closing coordinator on the rent schedules, the management certifications, the HAP contract signing, the rest of the closing process. We know that these are not working terribly smoothly from for the purposes of the RECAP OAMPO intersection, and those are just a few of the targets, long list, but a few of the targets of things that we're trying to hit. We have, over the past few months, been sending to the regional leadership monthly reports on what transactions are coming. That is a baby step in the right direction, but we recognize that that's by no means a solution to some of these problems. But we did want to, Nancy and I did want to have me here today taking some of your time to give you a preview of how we're tackling some of these issues. And I don't know whether some of you have been hearing the word Kaizen or design councils or things along those lines for many months, many years perhaps. But certainly within the RAD universe and within the Office of RECAP, this first quarter of 2016's calendar year has been kind of our season of Kaizens, which are we are doing a number of different process improvement efforts with working groups and design councils in order to take advantage of the fact that in our sort of annual cycle, the first couple months of the calendar year tend to be a little quieter than other parts of the calendar year, particularly quieter than the last third of the calendar year, sort of September, October, November, December. So we're taking advantage of this relative lull and doing a lot of process improvement efforts in order to tee up for the time ahead. And that includes design councils or Kaizens on a lot of these issues that I've mentioned. So in the RAD 1, component 1 universe, we actually have just had over the past 3 days a group of folks, including Jen Larson and Yvette in the OAMPO office, including some of our closing coordinators and some of our transaction managers and some of our program design folks in the POW office, thinking through how does the OAMPO RECAP office relationship work in the RAD public housing conversion process, and where should those moments of interaction start, and how should that work in a very granular way. So they have done, they're in the midst of a 3-day launch of that process where they're taking 3 days dedicated together, thinking through those issues, and then there'll be work streams over the next 4 to 5 weeks to try to implement the things and the ideas that came out of that 3-day intensive effort. So we are hoping to have new procedures in place in about 5 or 6 weeks on a lot of the RAD public housing side of things, whether that's in time to really roll it out in your next call or perhaps in the call after that. Not quite sure, but we will be back with, assuming we're invited, we'll be back to highlight some of the outcome of that. In the RAD 2 context, we are gearing up towards a similar Kaizen, which will be happening later this month, to grapple with how the intersection points work in the RAD 2 context, and a lot of the reapportionment and extensions and things like that will get a new procedure for how we manage those things and how we work together on those issues. So I'm hopeful that that will get a much cleaner process and clearer roles and responsibilities in the very short term. And then internally, we're also working on process improvements, for example, within the mark-to-market universe, reworking our process and trying to be very explicit about how those things work and what the right intersections with the field are. And when we get a little bit more of a sense of some process improvements internally, we'll be coordinating with the OAMPO team on some process improvements in how the two offices work together in the mark-to-market universe as well. So to some extent, I'm not giving you any true substantive actionable information. It's more a preview of a lot of the things that we're working on, and to give you a sense that these things are currently in play. They are very much the focus of Office of RECAP work and OAMPO work right now, and we hope to be back either in May or partial in May and partial in June with what is the result of all of those things. But I am certainly committing to you on this call that we will be back in May and June with what we hope will be positive evolution of how our teams work together and how our processes work to clarify roles, to make sure that we are not tripping over each other, where we are getting to all of you in the field the information that you need when you need it, so that you're not blindsided by the fact that all of a sudden you have a new PBRA contract that you're supposed to be asset managing, and yesterday you didn't even know it existed, or you knew it existed, it closed yesterday, and now you have no documents to know what you're supposed to do with it, things along those lines, and many more. So this is primarily a preview and a commitment to you that we are going to be communicating more of how this should work and how this will be working going forward in the next call or two. So thank you very much for having me here, and stay tuned for more detail.
Thank you so much, Tom. It's a huge, as I said earlier, just tremendous relief to me to have someone of Tom's caliber and collegiality and his commitment to working together and enhancing RECAP's relationship and operations with the field, I think is something that was long overdue prior to Tom getting here. And now that he is here, I'm totally convinced that he's going to do an excellent job on executing it. So thank you so much.
Glad to be working with all of your team.
Great. Just wanted to go back briefly before we go to Q&A to Brian and Jen's presentation. As you can see, they have done a lot of work on the their specific components of the plan, to the extent that once you do get the whole troubled asset oversight improvement plan with the minutes to this meeting, if you have additional ideas about things that we should be considering, please do feel free to reach out to Jen and communicate those. I feel like there are a lot of places that we can connect the dots in terms of providing oversight to this sort of increasingly challenging portfolio, and would more than welcome any good ideas that you all have out there in the field. So I think we are going to go to Q&A. Tiffany Birdsong, who I hope all of you saw the email, is now the new acting OAMPO Deputy Director, is going to facilitate this portion of the program. I wanted to take this public opportunity to acknowledge Tiffany. We are all just thrilled to have her on board. I think there was a line about 10 people deep out her office door at OAMPO the first day that she started for administrative items that needed to be tidied up. And I think that she is just going to be a tremendous asset to OAMPO, also in improving our relationship with the field in terms of making sure communication gets out to you timely and in a way that is easy for you to understand and become actionable upon. So I think the line will be opened up now for questions. Tiffany, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you, Nancy Ann. We're going to go ahead and jump right in with our first question.
The question line, I believe it's on the agenda that got sent out to you, is 888-675-2535. It should be on the hopefully the bottom of your screen now. And the PIN that you enter is 674-5084. We'll wait a couple of minutes for those to get queued up.
We don't have any questions at this time, but we're going to hold on.
This is when we should have someone dancing behind us, right? Intermission. Tiffany and Aaron, are you getting anything queued up?
Yes, we're in the process. We're currently waiting for questions, but we don't have any at this time. We'll continue to hold.
A sense of expectation.
I know. I feel like it's going to be a hard one when it comes. Any questions in the queue?
Hey, Nancy Ann, we still don't have any questions. Give it one more minute.
I'll give the number one more time, 888-675-2535, PIN 674-5084. When you dial into the conference line, you press 10. I think that instruction will be on the line. Okay,
And a
well,
question about,
I always give out prizes to the person who gets the least questions.
Hello?
We do actually receive
yeah,
questions,
sorry. We
so I
have
guess
one
I have to give
question
prizes to
came
everyone now. Thank you so much for joining us today. If you do
Ann?
have questions, please email them in to Tiffany
Nancy
Birdsong, and we'll be sure to get responses out to you via email and included in the minutes that you'll be getting to this webcast,
Hi, Nancy Ann.
along with all of the other supporting documentation that we talked about. Thank you all for joining us today. Take care.
Nancy Ann.
Oh, hi, Aaron.
Hi, we actually do have one question.
Okay.
You have 0 questions.
Looks like we lost the call. Please email your question in, and we'll be sure to get a response to you soon.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Have a good day.